The things that we don't face, the hard things that we don't battle through, our kids will have to put on their armor and battle through our stuff if we don't work through it on our own in a healthy way. That doesn't mean pretending like everything's rainbows and butterflies, but it does mean inviting them to process it with you in an age appropriate manner. But the worst thing we can do is say nothing.
Welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast, where we discuss all things identity, self-compassion, and fulfillment within and beyond motherhood. I'm Emily Rose Hardy, a mindset and self-love coach for moms. I am a firm believer that to be able to take care of our children, we must take care of ourselves first. This is not a parenting podcast. No, this is a podcast where we will challenge the societal expectations of what it means to be a mom, demystify the perfect mom myth, and learn to love ourselves. You are worthy, mama. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast. We are in for a beautiful, powerful conversation today. We're going to be getting into living and mothering with chronic illness, healing, and what it means to embrace your scars, both emotional and physical. I am so happy to introduce you to our guest, Kelsey Pfleiderer. Kelsey is a writer from small town Ohio, now residing in the Florida Keys with her husband, rainbow baby boy, and feisty orange neighborhood cat. After being diagnosed with a rare spinal tumor in the fall of 2017, she left her career in corporate events to pursue her deepest dream of writing full-time. She founded her site, Aperture Expanding, where she candidly shares her heart on marriage, motherhood, chronic illness, and more. She believes that by embracing our scars, both physical and emotional, we can create a roadmap that leads us to the life we were made to lead. She is currently seeking representation from literary agents for her first nonfiction self-help book, sharing this very message. So Kelsey, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, your story, all that good stuff?
Yay, of course. Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here with you as well. So, yes, my name is Kelsey Pfleiderer, and I'm a writer. I live in the middle of the Florida Keys, so in between Key Largo and Key West. I'm in Isla Morada, so smack dab in the middle of the ocean on a little rock. So that's where we are, and I have a 3-year-old son, and of course my husband as well. We're down here. And yeah, so I'm a writer. How that all came to be was a series of significant events that I'm ultimately deeply grateful for because I was diagnosed with a spinal tumor in November 2017 with a subsequent emergency surgery, partial tumor resection and spinal fusion in that same fall as well, that same hospital visit. And I was at the time working in luxury weddings and corporate events, which I went to school for that. That's what I was told would be a great career, la la la. Like it was the hat that I was given and the safe route. But it ultimately wasn't what I knew I was supposed to be doing. I had a second grade teacher, and she told me when I was little, she'd keep me behind in recess for my writing in second grade, which I'm sure I was writing about tulips being, I don't know, from limited to or something, I don't know. But she would keep me behind in recess to encourage me with my writing and write with me and help me and lean into me. And I always clung to those words because I could tell that there was something there. So after this diagnosis, I was kind of put face to face with the reality of my mortality. And I'm so thankful for that because that's all of us, right? We all never know what's going to happen. And so the fact that I was given this tangible proof so early on in my life, I'm so thankful for because it changed my life in every way, not just my career. It didn't just lead me to start being the writer that I wanted to be and always felt called to be, but it led me to living life wide open in every way that I could because it was that reminder, and it is still that reminder constantly of you never know what's around the corner. This could all be taken away from any of us at any point. And so live for today, fully alive, feeling it all. And I'm so thankful for that.
We hear that kind of message often, that life is short and you can't control like what happens. And so just to hear your story of that being very apparent, very real, and how you've been able, because of that being such a present piece of your life, to like live the life that you want to live And knowing that we all can do that, right? We all can choose to live the life we want to live. And I think it's just, I love that you're out here sharing your story and encouraging and inspiring us to embrace that. I mean, it really is so powerful and such an important message to share. So thank you so much for just being so open with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's to me, I feel like the lives that we desire to lead, we have those desires for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, it might seem impossible. I can't be a writer full time. I can't open a bakery. I can't be a wedding photographer. That's silly. I'm just going to do this safe route. This safe route. My desires are unimportant. How I want to live my life is unimportant. The things I want to say, the opinions I have, it's unimportant. No, the desires are, they're the map. It's how we find exactly what we're called to do. They're not just little random thoughts in our minds. They're there for a reason, and we're supposed to follow through with those. And if they're, especially if it's a nagging desire that stays for years and years and years and doesn't go away, no matter how much you try to stifle it, you're supposed to follow that. And if it's there, then there is reality in that. You're not going to be led down a path that's going to lead you into a briar patch. It's there for a reason. You're supposed to lean into it, and a way will be made.
A way will be made. Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Such a powerful part of your message is this idea of embracing your scars and living fully. What does that mean to you to live fully? Like, what does that look like for you? But also, like, how can somebody tap into that to, like, am I living fully? How do I live fully?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it is questioning the rules that we tell ourselves in the smallest things. They matter. Like, I can't use my Christmas mugs because I needed to pack them all away, and I can get them out the day after Thanksgiving. But who told you that? If they bring you joy, then keep them out all year long. And, oh, I can't wear my Mickey Mouse shirt because this person will think that I'm being silly. But who told you that? Is that what you want to wear? Then wear your Mickey Mouse shirt. Or I can't show up to this PTA meeting or this soccer moms group with being my full self because I'm a little loud and I can be kind of a little bit much. Well, who told you? It's almost like we reject ourselves before we even let anybody else reject us, right? It's like we're trying to keep ourselves safe from what? From someone laughing at you for using a Christmas mug? It's silly. And you're making them laugh. It's a silly thing. And you're inviting them to do the same, And from your Mickey Mouse shirt, maybe you go to the grocery and you see a cashier whose mother she misses so much loved Mickey Mouse, and you made her whole day. And now she spent the whole day thinking about sweet memories of her mom. And when you show up as your full self to the PTA meeting, to whatever it is, you are actively inviting everybody else around you, whether they act like, who the heck is this lady or not, you're still getting them to think, even if they think this lady's kind of silly. I don't know about her. She's kind of bonkers. But they know deep down she is just being herself, I think. Like, I think she's just being her. That's just who she is. And then they can question, well, who am I? And what am I withholding? And how, like, I actually really wanted to show up to that meeting talking about how excited I am to can my tomatoes, but I didn't talk about it because I worried that that would be way too boring, but you didn't know that someone there would have loved to hear that. And then you could have had a tomato canning party and created this whole community and been together. And so I think it really just begins with questioning the rules that we set for ourselves, and the self-talk that we have about, kind of, like I said, rejecting ourselves, self-selecting ourselves out before subjecting our own selves to that rejection.
Yeah, there's something there about like rejecting ourselves before we even let somebody else see it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, I think a lot of that protection comes from times where we have been rejected, right? Like we all have experiences. We all were kids. We all in our adult lives have things where we're like, oh, that someone responded in a way that made me feel really uncomfortable to something I did. And I think there's such an important piece there of like, it doesn't mean that somebody's not going to judge you. Like that might happen. But if you don't even, like, if you're rejecting first, you're not even giving the opportunity for acceptance. And you're automatically like rejecting yourself. And that feels awful. You, as like the person who loves these things, are saying, nope, you can't show that.
Yeah.
That's a lot worse than some random mom at the PTA meeting who you probably wouldn't get along with anyway, necessarily rejecting you, right? Like, what does that matter? I think it's so, those things hold us back a lot more than we realize sometimes. And I love all of those examples because it's these little things that who says? And if someone does say, do you actually agree with that? Like, does it matter to you that people think it's weird to have your Christmas mugs out all year? That you're putting Christmas lights up November 1st and people are like, no, you can't do that till after Thanksgiving. Who says? Why? You can do life your way. And it gives me chills to think about it. I personally, and I share this often on the podcast, but I kept myself quiet for a long time in life, just feeling like what I had to say was not valuable, wasn't worth it. No one wanted to hear it. And it's something that I'm now like loud and, I speak my mind most of the time, but I'm still working on it. It's still something I'm actively working on. And sometimes don't even realize like, oh, I'm totally like timid and afraid to speak my mind here because I'm afraid of what someone else is going to say. But I like thinking about that as like, no, I'm rejecting myself there. So like, just say it, whether people appreciate it, whether it like resonates with them or not. At least I didn't reject myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what you said is so true in that mom who judges you isn't likely to be your friend anyways. And so it's better to find out now, being your full self, than foster a friendship with her and tiptoe around that friendship the entirety of the friendship, right? Because then you're continuing to reject yourself and abandon yourself.
So I'm curious because, like we talked about, it can be hard sometimes to embrace ourselves fully in that way, just because of all the stories we tell ourselves. Do you have any tips for women to really embrace their full selves, like in a very real way?
I think putting yourself back in one of the pivotal moments of your life. We all have a moment or moments in our lives where we get the phone call, or we are sitting next to the hospital bed, or we are on the tile floor of our bathroom in pain. In those moments where everything gets really small and nothing matters except what actually matters, if you find yourself starting to kind of self select out and hold yourself back, put yourself back in that scenario and remember nothing else matters but what really, really matters. And what really, really matters is being my full self, because when you are your full self, you give that gift to everybody who loves you. And there's no greater gift than that. I love getting to see the people that I love. You can tell when they're just being free, and I love that so much. That's what I want for them. And that's what the people that love us want for us too, especially after we're gone. And so just remembering that moment and living out of that pivotal, life changing hospital bed, pain on the bathroom floor, phone call moment, remembering that none of this matters, this matters, and I'm going to live into this.
It's so powerful. It just hits. You can tell you're a writer. You have such a beautiful way with words, and
Thank you.
it really does, like, it hits different. We spend so much time just in the busyness and the chaos and the all the things, right? And it's what we're kind of conditioned to do. Like, we go to school, we finish that, we are conditioned to like live this certain life where it just kind of go, 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 go. And we need that reminder sometimes, like, wait. You can find importance in those things, but what really matters is you getting to live the life that you are meant to live. And it's just so powerful. It stops you in your tracks a little bit to really think about that. I encourage anyone listening to really like sit on that for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So on a more day-to-day level, as a mom who is, navigating motherhood, navigating life with chronic illness, can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely challenging. To me, that is where self talk is hardest to overcome, because it's not just a burden to me on the hard days, it's a burden to my husband and my son. And of course, they don't mind. And of course, they're wonderful. But it's still, the self talk it's debilitating. And so it can be really, really, really challenging on the hard days, just combating any kind of negative self talk, any guilt, because of course you do feel like a burden to your family. However, I always remind myself, if this were my husband, if this were my son, I would be more than happy, absolutely honored to support them. And I would never think of them as a burden. This is family. And so always reminding myself of that helps a lot. Thankfully, there are some children's books that share about Mama Llama home with mama, mama llama and llama llama have a cold. And so like I can reference those with my 3-year-old and I have, but it can be challenging. And so what I've learned though is that being really honest with my son has given him this awareness of his own body that is starting to come out the more that he shares and speaks and processes things. The other day, we were running. He likes to run, and then dive bomb onto the couch and run, and then dive bomb down the hall, And so
Mhm.
he's a boy. And so he's run. And he got to the end of the hallway and he looked at me and he said, "Oof, mommy, my body needs a rest." And so it stopped me in my tracks. I'm getting emotional just remembering it because I'm so thankful that he has that awareness of checking in with his body because chronically ill or not, we all need to have that awareness of our body and what we need, whether it's I need to rest, I need to sleep, I need to hydrate, I need to sit in a corner and stare at a wall for 5 minutes, and so this whole time when I've been honest with him on, hey, mommy is having a hard day today, mommy's going to be okay, but you know how sometimes mommy just has a hard day and her body needs a little more rest, so mommy's going to rest a little bit today, but tomorrow if I'm feeling better, we can do whatever you want to do. And just like kind of talking them down through that, I always had this fear that, oh, this is going to hurt him. He's going to cling to this. This is going to traumatize him growing up, that mommy was sick sometimes. And now I'm finding that he's actually learning about being aware of your body and what your body needs because of these conversations that we've had. I didn't have that awareness of my body when I was 3. And I also didn't know to express it too. Even if I did feel my body getting tired, I didn't know that I could express it, or to take care of it in that way. And so I'm so thankful for that. So that's been really helpful.
Yeah. What you said about it being kind of a gift in a sense to your son, I just think about how we push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves. And I mean, that's something that comes up a lot on this podcast is like that we don't necessarily stop to take care of ourselves and check in, like, what do we want? That's just kind of how we're taught to go through life. And of course, with chronic illness, you maybe are forced to stop. Like, there's not really an option to keep pushing. But that can be a way for your 3-year-old to start understanding and like how powerful when he gets to be, an older kid, a teenager, an adult, to have a skill. It really is, I think you can think of it like a skill because it's something that really does make a difference in our lives. And so many of us are just really not taught. We're almost taught to like tune it out. Just keep pushing, just keep going. And whether it's with our, providing for the people in our lives, or it's doing a job, or whatever it is, pushing ourselves to the limits and not stopping. Like, it really is like such an amazing way to look at that relationship you have with him. Because I can only imagine, how challenging that can be to know that you may want to engage in a different way and not being able to, but taking that other side of it it's pretty beautiful.
He's a wise little old man. I always say he's 87 years old. The things out of his mouth, the things he observes, he's just a little old man.
I love it. A little old man who's taken in and absorbed some important life learnings that will, I'm sure, serve him incredibly into his future. And like when we take care of ourselves, the things that we're able to do, it's truly like one of the biggest gifts. I mean, that's something we talk about a lot here is like when we take care of ourselves and our kids learn to do that, it's massive. It can't be understated how huge that is.
Absolutely.
So motherhood and life in general are complex, right? Like, I think we can all agree on that. And with, living with chronic illness and all that comes with that, there's so many emotions, so many experiences. So many mothers are mothering through grief, fear, hurt, chronic illness. What messages would you give to those moms?
I would say to just be candid and honest about the things that you're feeling. And of course, you're not going to give the gory details of things, but it's okay to say, mommy's feeling really sad because grandpa passed away. And I know you're feeling really sad too. Did you want to talk about it today? Did you want to talk about some memories with grandpa, or did you want to do this? Or what helps you? Sometimes it helps me when I look at pictures of him. Do you want to do that today too? Or we don't have to. What do you think might help you? You know, so just kind of like keeping it light, but also opening the door for them to process it as well. Because the worst thing we can do for them and ourselves is to stifle the pain, because what we don't face and work through, our children will have to battle through. Right. And so, like, if we internalize grief and we internalize trauma and stuff it out, we don't work through it and heal from it. And healing is a long game. We're spending our whole lives healing. But if we don't actively address it and acknowledge it and work through it in a healthy manner, our kids will internalize that and carry it with them in a way that maybe they find when they're 30, something really hard happens and they don't know how to handle it because they don't have the tools, or they've been taught to stifle out their feelings so much so that they also can't tune into the good feelings, and they find that out when they are 20 with their first girlfriend, and so I always think about that. The things that we don't face, the hard things that we don't battle through, our kids will have to put on their armor and battle through our stuff if we don't work through it on our own in a healthy way. And again, that doesn't mean pretending like everything's rainbows and butterflies, but it does mean inviting them to process it with you in an age appropriate manner. But the worst thing we can do is say nothing. That's the worst thing we can do, not just for ourselves, but for them too, because then they might have so much to say and so many questions and so many ways that we can support them that they now feel like they can't say to you. And so they will spend now the rest of forever feeling like, I can't ask for help. My emotions aren't important. And I will now live life not asking for help, not feeling deeply, and not understanding how to process good and bad things.
Yeah. You just speak about this so powerfully, just the impacts that we can have in addressing things. I'm wondering, something that kind of comes up for me as you're saying all of that is just thinking like, well, I don't know how to address that with my kids that way. What would you say for anyone who feels like they maybe have gotten it wrong, right? Like, oh, I'm not happy with the way that I addressed that really tricky situation. Do you have any advice for kind of dealing with that, I guess, and kind of coming through that?
Yeah. I think it's the same way that we would handle if, at lunchtime, if they saw us get really frustrated with something and not handle it in the best manner, right? And so, like, let's
Mm-hmm.
say we are making pasta and the water boils over and we panic and say, oh my gosh, I am just so dumb. I can't believe this pot of water boiled over. And obviously, that's something that we don't want to say about ourselves, and we definitely don't want our kids to say about themselves. And so that would be a moment where we can go back to our kids and say, hey, I wanted to talk to you about lunchtime. Mommy was trying really hard to make us pasta, and the pot boiled over. And I was so sad because I was so excited to give us a really yummy lunch. And I was being really hard on myself. And I said things that weren't kind and weren't true. And I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. And I told myself I'm sorry too, because it's not nice to say bad things to ourselves about ourselves. And so I think it's the same in that, let's say, if we're focusing on like the grandpa passing away thing, if we say, hey, I wanted to talk to you about grandpa passing away. I know it's been a little bit of time, but mommy's been thinking about it. And I just wanted to see if you wanted to talk about it, or how I can help you with this, because mommy's been feeling really sad. A lot of us have been feeling really sad, and I'm sure you've been having some questions as well. And so I've been thinking about it and thinking that I probably should have asked you about it a little bit more, and I'm really sorry. And I would love to hear your thoughts and help you with those questions and help you feel sad, but with me, moving forward. And so what can mommy do now to help you with those things? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to watch old videos? Do you want to write him a letter to heaven? Like, just again, just owning it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a whole nother thing, because it shows them not only is it okay to make mistakes, it's okay to own the fact that we made a mistake and then forgive ourselves for that mistake.
Yeah, that forgiveness piece is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge part of like for them to be able to in the future when they mess up, because the whole human thing, and
Yeah.
they will
Yeah.
they will not be perfect. And so
Right.
teaching that self-forgiveness and modeling that in such an explicit way, that can be another really powerful, beautiful gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, one thing that I really love asking moms on the Worthy Mother podcast is about self-care because it's something that I just feel really passionate about normalizing self-care and what that means because we really do all need to be taking care of ourselves. So, I would love to just ask how you take care of yourself personally, and then if you have any tips for moms just to make sure that they are caring for themselves as well.
So I'll be the first to admit that I'm not always great at self care. And so what I've learned to do is call in accountability buddies. And so that means telling my sister, hey, I've been having a really hard time this month and I know I need a breather. Can you please check in on me by Sunday and make sure that I have gotten out of the house for at least an hour? Or that I've done this or that, or I just like, I really need you to be on me this week. And sometimes that's even texting my best friend and saying, I am so busy and I'm so overwhelmed. I know that I'm not eating enough. I know that I'm not hydrating enough. Can you be my buddy in this? And so she'll text me pictures of herself holding up her her water bottle and say, I'm down to X amount of ounces. How many are you at? Let me know. Let me see your cup, you know? And it sounds so silly, but I need that accountability. And it's also in the community because it's reminding myself, okay, I don't have to feel like garbage about myself, that I'm having a hard time taking care of myself because we have all been there and we all are in it together. And so having the accountability and the community around it is huge for me. So that's something that I really need to do. For me, too, movement is really big. Getting outside is really, really big. When I find myself in a rut, I always change my environment. And so like if that's, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really anxious today. I can't get out of it. Something so small as going to go get the mail and seeing the sun, or if it's snowing, seeing the snow and feeling it on your skin, seeing the rain, feeling it on your skin, just being brought back to center because of the physical sensations you feel just by being outside. And then you not only snap out of your head, but it's good for you. It is a form of self care and it invites more self care because then you come back. Maybe you want to spend more time outside then. Or maybe you come back inside and you feel refreshed enough to say, I'm going to put frozen fruit in my water just because it's fancy and I need to be good to myself. And that makes me feel fancy. um, so finding the little ways to care for yourself too, and the little moments, trying to take care of yourself the way that you would your child. And so, right. So if they get out of the bath, they get out of the shower, how are you going to towel them off? You're not going to take the towel and go, okay, hurry, we got to go. We got to go. No, you're going to take their little rubber ducky towel and you're going to gently pat their skin and take your time with it. And then after that, you're going to put lotion on them and make silly faces and noises and be goofy and take your time. And then after that, you're going to put them in something really cozy that they love. And then after that, maybe you'll sit down and you'll read your favorite book together, but you're not going to forget that they need a snack. And so, like, we need to ask ourselves those same questions too. So, like, in the little moments, like getting out of the shower, sitting down to eat a snack, those types of things, it is collective self care, taking care of ourselves in those tiny little moments, the exact same way we would our children. It changes so much. I swear it does something to your subconscious because then it almost becomes a habit of kindness to your body. And so paying attention to those little ways that I can care for myself in the way I would my son has helped me a lot as well.
It reminds me a lot of just conversations of reparenting and, giving to ourselves in the same way that we would our kids, and how even just like such small little things. I mean, you said like the toweling yourself off in a gentle way. It's like these little things that may not actually make that big of a difference in the moment. Maybe they do make a big difference in the moment, but it's like, okay, these are tiny little things. This doesn't affect my life, but really it can have this compounding effect of like, I'm gentle with myself. I'm kind to myself. I think about my needs. And yes, that makes it so that my needs are then getting met, but it also shows myself that I care and that I'm not rejecting my needs. And it just kind of bubbles over with the impact, which is really powerful. And it makes it feel so much easier and approachable, right? Like, oh, I'm going to do that anyway. I might as well do it in a way that's kind. And I'm going to get my kid a snack anyway. I might as well check in with myself. Do I need a snack? Like,
Yeah.
that's so approachable. We can all do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kelsey, this has been a really beautiful conversation. I know this is something we've been planning for a while, and there's been a lot of things that have made it so it's been a few months before we could have this conversation. We also had some technical difficulties during the conversation, which I think we managed to make it where the recording is not going to reflect any of that, but it took us a little while to get through this, you guys.
We did it.
We did it. That was some good persistence on our part. So I so appreciate you being here, sharing your story with us, and just, I mean, such powerful messages. We're recording this on Friday. I'm going to be going into my weekend just with all of this in mind, really bringing this to my awareness. So thank you. I'm hoping you can share where listeners can find you. I know that you have a lot of good stuff to look out for.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram the most. My last name is really tricky, so I don't know if you'll have show notes
Yes.
to spell it.
I will put it in there.
Years, I can still barely spell it. Okay. Yeah.
It does not look like Pfleiderer, that's for sure.
No, it looks more like pterodactyl. That's my Instagram, and that's where I am most often. And it's the most kind, wonderful community, the kindest folks you'll find. And yeah, so definitely come and hang out. We'd love to see you there.
Yes, and I have loved following you. There's always some good little reminders and inspiration. So definitely check it out. It will be linked in the show notes so that you can find it really nice and easily. Thank you so much for being here. I just
thank you.
Oh, it's so powerful, so amazing. And I'm so grateful we got to have you here on the Worthy Mother podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so special.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning in and for supporting the podcast week after week, taking this important time for yourself as well. This is really a gift you're giving yourself, kind of exposing yourself to these conversations and knowing that there's little pieces here that you can take and apply to your life. Definitely encourage you all to just really think about these points. These are some important things that we talked about today that I think we all can really sit on and absorb into our lives, like how we can live more fully and all of that good stuff. So I appreciate you, I value you, and I want you to always know you are worthy, Mama.